What does the future hold for advanced driver assistance systems and the world of autonomous driving technologies? Well, today my guest is the president and co-founder of LeddarTech, and they are a company at the forefront of the AI-based sensor fusion and perception software. So today I want to learn more about LeddarTech's innovative technology, how it's transforming the automotive industry by enhancing the capabilities of ADAS systems, and how it's making autonomous driving safer and more efficient. But what does ADAS stand for? How is technology influencing the decisions that automakers are making today? And what can we expect as it evolves? These are just a few of the questions I'm going to answer today. We're currently producing something like 30 to 35 episodes every single month, reaching around about 130 to 140,000 listeners around the world. So I wanted to mention the sponsor of Tech Talks Daily and also shine a light on how legacy managed file transfer tools are dated and lack the security that today's remote workforce demands. And companies that continue relying on that outdated technology put their sensitive data at risk. But the good news is you can ensure top-tier security with Kiteworks MFT suite. Their software security hardening includes an ongoing bounty program, regular penetration testing to minimize vulnerabilities, the convenience of a one-click appliance update, and avoid the hassle of managing multiple unhardened servers. And remember, Kiteworks is also FedRAMP moderate authorized. So step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks by visiting kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com to get started today. But enough rambling from me. Let's get today's guest on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Montreal, where my guest is waiting to join me. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, Neil, pleasure to meet you. My name is Frantz Saintellemy. I'm president and CEO of LeddarTech, and my background is all been in the high-tech industry. I've got 25 years of experience in the industry, really starting from semiconductors all the way to sensors, to system software, to now AI. So I've gone full spectrum from your in-car infotainment. This was back then your telematics platform in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, to the advent of audio where you had 16 speakers in your car, 22 speakers, your Becker, your Levinsons, your Lexicons, these high-end systems, Bose, and so forth. And so I grew up in the industry developing semiconductors and software for telematics and in-car infotainment, and then progressively migrated to more safety, developing sensors for safety applications. So things like your airbags, they need sensors. Things like your rollover tilt sensors, they need sensors as well. But also brake pads, they need pressure sensors. You also need median NOx or gas sensing, because you don't want to suffocate inside the cabin. So the air has to be regulated based on sensing as well. Your HVAC system sensing. So that's my journey. And now today I'm at LeddarTech. LeddarTech, is really kind of the end of, or the latest foray for me in the automotive space.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, because every single day I try and get people thinking differently about technology, how it's impacting their life, their world, and often in areas that you don't automatically associate with technology. And of course, you've mentioned cars there and all those different sensors. And cars are, for the most part, like almost huge computers, arguably even data centers in some situations. So I suppose just to set the scene for our conversation today and bring to life what we're talking about, can you tell me a little bit more about LeddarTech's sensor fusion and perception software and how that's helping improve the safety and accuracy of advanced driver assistance systems and autonomous driving? It's an incredibly cool space at the moment. We all hear about it, but a little bit unsure. I'd love for you to demystify and tell us a little bit more about them.
Absolutely. But first, a little bit about LeddarTech. LeddarTech, was founded in 2007 it it was a product of a university research. So founded in 2007 as a sensing company developing these unique solutions from signal acquisition, so acquiring the signals from the environment, to processing those signals into the digital domain. And we use them to make something called LiDAR. So you have radars, which are radio detection types of signals. So radio signals that are used in detection and ranging. And then you have LiDARs. These are light beams or light signals that are used for detection and ranging. And so we were one of the pioneers in that space. Our products were used for speed enforcement and, toll bridges and things like that. But also in agriculture or construction or mining. And, it was a pretty successful business, but it was a very fragmented market. And so as a result, back in 2015, and progressively into 16 and 17, the company evolved to become a pioneer in the field of AI-based fusion and perception software. So what is fusion and perception software? It's essentially, the car needs to be aware of its environment. In order to be able to be aware of its environment, it needs to have a view of that environment. So LeddarTech's software, basically, we use AI and computer vision to fuse all signals coming from the different types of sensors, from cameras, radars, ultrasonic sensors, or even LiDARs as they come into the vehicle. And then we combine that with the vehicle dynamics. So the motion, what's happening with the vehicle. Is it driving on gravel? Is it, or on asphalt? Is it in traffic or not? Or driving at full speed? So the vehicle dynamics tells us a lot about its environment. And so we fuse all of that to recreate the most accurate 3D model of this environment. And we do that up to 30 times per second to enable the vehicle to make safer decisions and to have a more accurate navigation. This enables advanced driver assistance. So things like, for example, emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, or eventually to autonomous driving. So you need to have this call it environmental model in order to have the vehicle think about it as its eyes and ears on the road. So instead of you as the driver having pretty much a pretty narrow field of view, you now have the vehicle with a 360-degree coverage of its environment that's reproducing this environment 30 times every second. That allows you to detect vulnerable road users like pedestrians or cyclists or other cars or other vehicles to avoid these collisions or avoid unwanted accidents.
Wow, it's incredibly cool. And when I was doing a little research on you before you came on the podcast, one of the things that really stood out to me is how you pride yourselves on being sensor and processor agnostic. So can you tell me a bit more about that and the benefit it will have for automotive manufacturers and suppliers who use your software solutions? Because, again, it seems like a huge deal from the outside looking in.
Indeed. In fact, this is quite significant. For decades, the automotive industry assumed that, accidents were inevitable. And so the industry evolved to developing, accident mitigation technologies like your airbags, like your seat belts, for example. Basically, all the efforts were put into, mitigating the results or the impact of an accident. And so over the past 10 years, regulators across the globe have recognized that change is required in regulations. And so basically regulators pretty much everywhere are working really, really hard to basically eradicate accidents, and these regulations, are somewhat, in the European Union called the General Safety Regulation, enacted in July 2022, and more recently NHTSA in the US called NHTSA 29, which is in a nutshell, says that cars have to be equipped with enough sophistication, enough intelligence to recognize a vulnerable road user, regardless of the environmental condition, and to have enough intelligence to have emergency braking or emergency steering to avoid the collision altogether. Now, this is important because this really essentially forces the cars to go from safety warning systems to active safety systems. And now this is a big difference. So warning, you can have a large margin for error, because, you don't have to know if what type of object is in the blind spot. You just need to know there's something in the blind spot. And you don't have to know, if it's a car that's in front of you or if it's a pedestrian. If it's a car, you could have a fender bender, but if it's a pedestrian, you can't. And so these vehicles have to have enough intelligence. Current systems, current technologies are camera centric in general, and they use what is called object level fusion. And these object level fusion is used to analyze the camera data, and they're insufficient. Typically, they come from the camera provider. So whoever's making the camera, in this case, like a Mobileye, they will use the camera. And also the radar provider will also use its own radar to provide intelligence. So each of these systems independently decide, is this a pedestrian or is this a car? Is this a paper or is it debris on the road or a tire debris? And it typically will have inconsistencies. And most of these vehicles have difficulty resolving these inconsistencies. That's why the industry has recognized a new approach is necessary. We, on the other hand, LeddarTech, we use what is called AI-based fusion and perception, where our software combines all the output from all the sensors without filtering, without making a decision. By fusing all of that, we recreate a 3D model of the car's environment. And as a result, it's more accurate. It also allows the car manufacturer to actually mix and match the type of sensors that are needed for the different geographies, the different vehicle types. If you buy a Bentley, it's very different price than if you buy a Fiat. And so having the ability to have a software that is recognizing, that does not use complex hardware, complex sensors, or complex processors for a Fiat is very different than if you're a Bentley, where performance is your clear objective, and so you need to have better performing at any, not any cost, but cost is less of a problem. And so our software stack is a unique software stack that allows basically the manufacturers to do that, but also the scalability necessary to have one single software that can do your basic car models to your premium car models. In fact, we have demonstrated that we can deliver twice the performance at almost 50% of the sensor cost using that same stack compared to what's available today. So it's a major, major breakthrough, and it will democratize access to active safety systems for all budgets.
Wow, incredibly cool. Well, I'm conscious we're probably making it sound incredibly easy, and I'm sure there's been a few learning curves along the way. So I've got to ask, what were some of the key challenges in developing low-level sensor fusion and perception technology for advanced driver assistance systems and autonomous driving? And how did you overcome them? I would imagine you've got more than a few stories and tales from your
Right.
time there, but anything you can share?
Yes. So there are many hurdles in developing these complex systems. The first thing is you've got to make, um, um, very sophisticated software, artificially intelligent software fit into a low cost processor. I mean, it can't be into a $150 or $400 or $500 processor. Otherwise, it just doesn't scale. It cannot fit into the application. So you need efficiency. You also need to have, a technology that actually can evolve over time. And I'll explain that in a second, because that's very important. Because as vehicles become more software driven, there's increasing pressure on OEMs and their suppliers to write, deploy, and integrate code more quickly and efficiently. So it's the shift to software-defined vehicles, and that is profoundly affecting every function and facet of the automotive industry. Not only is software playing a larger role in core vehicle functions, but it also enabling new features such as driver assistance, for example, as I mentioned, but eventually as well, autonomous driving. OEMs need to incorporate new features that are closer to the start of production. They also need the ability to quickly and safely push these software upgrades after the vehicle is produced. So you can't just have a vehicle that's sitting there for 10 years without an update. So 6 months in the field of AI is an eternity. Things move too fast. So by the time the vehicle is out of production, it's out of phase with what is state-of-the-art software. So traditionally, OEMs would work with a system integrator like a tier one, for example, to write software for each hardware components and then integrate it with code for other parts of the vehicle. Testing of the integrated software has come late in the process, limiting the time available for making additional changes. The development of each component and the vehicle platform basically is more or less a one-off that starts over and over again. It's not scalable. It's not practical. A new approach is necessary. So as a result, the OEMs have shifted from this vertically integrated approach to a more iterative method that incorporates agile software development and collaboration with companies like LeddarTech, with innovative software companies like LeddarTech. And they're doing so increasingly with the collaboration of leading SoC vendors. So now, all of a sudden, from something that was defined vertically and everybody knew exactly what they needed to do with a specific timeline, now you have to have these collaborative, multi-layered collaborative approach. And one way we have overcome this challenge is by, having our software pre-ported on leading and predominant automotive SoC providers, thus significantly reducing the risks of development and the risk of adoption as well, because now it's a one-to-one direct relationship with the OEM, with the SoC, and with the tier one integrator. So pretty much everybody wins in this collaboration, and this is a new paradigm, and it is providing LeddarTech with a significant advantage over these black box or vertically integrated business models that are out there.
And you mentioned the breakneck pace and speed of technological change at the moment, and the advanced driver assistance systems and autonomous driving market are all expected to grow significantly over the next few months, years, and beyond. So I've got to ask, how are you positioning yourself to capitalize on this growth? Because it almost seems inevitable now.
Right. And this is a very good point. I mean, one of the things that one of the advantages is by being an early mover in this AI-based fusion and perception software, enabled us to build quite a robust and growing patent portfolio that is cited by the who's who of the industry. So we are recognized for having foundational IP and expertise with solid interiority that is critical for the industry's transition to a software-defined vehicle. So that IP portfolio combined with our expertise and what I would call an innovative business model, we partner with the customer. So the customer is really working hand in hand in an open book format where everyone can actually contribute together in the development. And that deployment of the stack can now be integrated into the OEM's own application development, which then it becomes their own. So we provide the middle layer. They don't have to start from scratch. The SoC provider doesn't have to develop software. Everybody wins. So we think that by collaboration, historically, the tech industry is operated in winner takes all. And so if you're Facebook or if you're Microsoft, you want to be the only leader. You want to dominate and have 80% market share and nobody else. Well, in this AI-based, software for automotive, for safety, no one can solve that problem on their own. You need open collaboration. You need ecosystems collaborating or working early together to address this problem. Because like we discussed, time to market, but also we're dealing with people's lives. So if your software can be state of the art and can be leveraged by everybody else, that's how the automotive industry has operated. That's how you get power steering, which was invented by Germans, anti-lock braking systems invented by Japanese. They're all standard. They're all available to everyone in the automotive industry. We think that our fusion and perception layer can be that standard.
And another thing that stands out for me is 7 years of experience and a substantial patent portfolio in the sensor fusion and perception space. What kind of advantages does that give you, do you think? Because it seems quite significant, again, from the outside looking in.
Right. Well, a couple of things. Since we've made significant investments in the development and validation of this pioneering technology, this gives us the ability to focus on partnerships. And we are engaged with multiple OEMs, multiple tier ones, multiple SoC providers to really capitalize and make this technology accessible to as many users as possible. And we are confident that this business model will accelerate the adoption and deployment of AI safety systems in the automotive space. And, at the same time, we have built a unique cluster of experts across the globe, but mainly in Montreal, Quebec City, Toronto in Canada, as well as Tel Aviv in Israel, where we've got some of the most talented and experienced AI and computer vision scientists that are really continuing to further develop the technology and maintain our industry lead. So there's many advantages. One of the disadvantage, which I will say, is sometimes you're so ahead of the market that you have to bring everyone else with you. And so we are in the process of slowly and bringing everyone else with us, starting with the leading OEMs. But it's not so much as if there was a clear roadmap. Everybody knew exactly it existed and people could just follow. We have to continue to educate not only the automotive industry, but also, potential, individuals, users of these technologies and investors as well, because this is so new that people aren't familiar with it.
And I think another aspect of every single tech project in every industry now is this. There's almost a huge focus on things like business value and ROI from every tech project. So from that side of things, how does LeddarTech software solution help maybe reduce costs for OEMs and tier 1 and 2 automotive suppliers while delivering improved performance and scalability? I appreciate it must be quite a delicate balance, but is that something that you do too?
Absolutely. Well, the way to think about it is that, as I mentioned earlier, cars are becoming more and more complex. They're outfitted with multiple sensors and processors, but how they process the data from these sensors matters. Object level fusion systems today, which are currently used in most cars, they interpret each sensor independently and often have troubles, in different harsh environments, different environments. So our pioneering AI-based fusion perception software really enables more accurate view of the environment by taking existing hardware, existing cameras, existing radars, existing sensors, and doubling their performance natively by software. This basically enables you to do more. Imagine, I would say, you have a car, its top speed is 150 kilometers per hour. I add my software, all of a sudden it can do 300 kilometers per hour. What that would do, right? And that sort of performance is the scaling of our software is quite revolutionary. So this allows you to, as a car maker or as a designer, actually use lower grade hardware to do different combinations of sensors. This gives tremendous flexibility, and we believe that this is the way to go.
Incredibly exciting. And speaking of exciting, I've got to ask, what was the significance of going public on NASDAQ? So again, feels incredibly exciting. How's that impacted your growth and strategic initiatives? It feels like there's a lot going on there, but what kind of impact has that had?
Yeah, I mean, operationally, this has not changed much for LeddarTech, to be fair. Yeah. We have been operating since we've had tier one investors, global investors. We've had to report on a quarterly basis to our board, to our investors. Going public provides a different access to capital. Yeah. It gives us more use or more vehicles to raise capital. We're like a biotech company, we raise capital for the next milestone. And we are in this next phase, next milestone. The next milestone is we expect one of the many OEMs that we are engaged with, or many tier ones or partners, to convert into a significant win. And that can translate into hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So being public gives us access to capital to go to the next phase, easier access to capital. Then the other thing too is that we're dealing with very large companies, traditional in many ways, the European, US, or German manufacturers, or even Koreans and Japanese. They're traditional in their ways, and it's a long cycle with a high barrier to entry. So they want to know that you have the stamina and the capital structure in place to be able to support them for the long term. And so being public gives them that assurance that we'll be able to continue to raise capital as long as we continue to progress with them.
And now you are public. I'm not sure how much you will be able to share with me today, but I'd love to get some teasers out of you. As we look ahead, what are LeddarTech's key priorities and goals for the future, particularly in advancing some of the technology around autonomous driving, etc., that we've discussed today? Any teasers or anything you can share around that road ahead?
Yeah, I mean, first things first is you should expect us, think of us like Microsoft OS, for example, where we will be releasing versions of our software that are increasingly being more complex, more sophisticated. For those of you who are familiar with ChatGPT, the difference between ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 3.5 was significant. The difference between ChatGPT 3.5 and ChatGPT 3.4 was just out of this world. And so you should expect that the evolution of our software will be step functions better with every release. So we expect to do a couple of releases before the end of this year and more next year. Combined with that, we expect to continue to expand our partners. We have 3 SoC partners that have been announced this year. That's Texas Instruments, that's ARM, and that's Black Sesame. We are working with another leading SoC provider that covers the China market. With Black Sesame and that leading SoC provider, which we're working on, should give us 90% coverage of the China ADAS market. And so we are very, very strongly positioned there. And so you should expect more announcements along those lines. And we are also working with tier ones that are, building products with our software. One of which we've announced for a couple of years now is Ficosa out of Spain. They're a leader in cameras for parking applications, and they're expanding their business really beyond, and they're growing, at a very fast rate. The next generation solutions will be based on our software. And so we expect to announce more tier one partnerships. And then eventually over the next 6 to 12 months, we're working with almost, a dozen type of OEM projects, one of which these OEM projects will convert into a significant design win, which will then be a step function for LeddarTech in terms of revenue, but also in terms of value creation. So lots going on. We'll continue to scale and grow the company and build our customer rosters.
Wow, such an exciting space to be in right now. And I feel that this story is going to continue to evolve for the rest of 2024 and beyond. So I'd love to get you back on next year, see how things are progressing. But as a little thank you for shining a light on this and demystifying it, put it in language everyone can understand today, I'm going to see if there's something we can do for you now, because some of the biggest names in business, VC funding and tech have either been guests or maybe listened to this podcast. So is that a person you'd love to have a private breakfast or lunch with? Who would it be and why? He or she might just get to hear this. Let's see what we can manifest, but who would it be?
Since we operate in the same industry, this man has been in the news for over the past couple of decades. His name is Elon Musk. I think, he gets a lot of stick for saying what crosses his mind, but he's got a brilliant mind, and would love to be able to hear his perspective and see how he sees the world in a one-to-one basis. I think that would be fascinating, to hear him, and without the distraction, the unfiltered, connection.
I should have known you would have gone Elon Musk straight away. Great choice there. We'll throw that out into the ether. Let's see what the universe can deliver there. But for everybody listening at home, maybe they want to find out more information about LeddarTech, dig a little bit deeper on the topics that we discussed today. Where would you like to point everyone listening?
Well, you can follow us on our website, LeddarTech.com, but you can also follow us via the NASDAQ through a ticker LDTC. But the most efficient way is usually through LinkedIn. We are very active as a company on LinkedIn on this platform. And so you can always stay tuned either with one of these 3 platforms, LeddarTech.com, on the NASDAQ, LDTC, or on LinkedIn.
Well, I've loved chatting with you today, especially because it's such an exciting topic at the moment, because advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS, and autonomous driving, or AD for short, is the largest market within automotive software right now. It's expected to grow at, I think, 11% CAGR to $42 billion by 2030, and that's not that far away. So incredibly exciting. I loved how you've demystified it all today. And like as I said a few moments ago, I'd love to get you back on early next year, see how things are progressing. But cannot thank you enough for investing your time with me today and demystifying this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Neil.
As we conclude today's discussion, I think the revolutionary strides that LeddarTech is making in the realm of autonomous driving technologies, it's clear that the road ahead is both exciting and challenging. And their approach to integrating AI to enhance vehicle perception capabilities, it doesn't just promise safer roads, but also opens up new avenues for innovation in automotive design and functionality. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, but I'd love to ask you the questions now, not just my guest. What are your thoughts on the future of autonomous driving technologies? How do you see AI shaping the evolution in that vehicle that you drive every day? Please email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes. But that is it for today. I've got another guest, another topic lined up for tomorrow. I cordially invite you to join me again. But thank you for listening today. And until next time, don't be a stranger.